I'm just muting left and right at this point. I'm just like, I can't.
Hard
Nope,
same.
no more of you.
Hard same, dude.
Like,
I have no doubt.
Getting down to like
same.
just a bunch of like animal things. Yeah, it's the only thing I can tolerate.
That's like the only yeah, because it's just, you know, I feel that same anxiety as well. It's like, like, you know, I'm out here putting junk on the internet when simultaneously I don't
want to see any of it.
I just don't want to have to.
Hey, Chelsea.
Hey, Victoria.
You know what I need?
What?
A breath of fresh movie.
Yay, me too.
All right, cool.
That's a movie I like to see.
This is Breath of Fresh Movie, a podcast where I, Victoria Harley,
And me, Chelsea Pope.
we watch a movie that neither one of us has ever seen.
And sometimes we'll never watch, and sometimes never see again.
Never see again. And then we talk about it here with you guys listening. Thanks for listening.
The hum of 1,000 listeners strong.
I mean, not quite that many, but
No, but it's like, but it is though. It's like thousands of you are out there right now, just hanging on our every word. You want to know, what do they think of the movie?
What did they think?
What do they think? They're so important.
Oh my God.
Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. Holy shit.
That is what.
I wonder what the movie is. I wonder what they're going to talk about. I clicked on it, but I didn't look at it. I clicked the button. What do they? I wonder what they're going to say. And that's a Jim Gaffigan bit.
Yeah,
sorry.
when he goes and does that meta voice.
I wonder what he's going to say next.
Oh, he's pale. I didn't know he was going to be this
So
pale.
I didn't like that.
Oh, he slurred his words a little bit there. I think he's drunk. I love that voice.
I like Jim Gaffigan.
Same.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's great.
I've laughed till I cried listening to him before. Today's movie is 24-Hour Party People. Came out in 2002. Directed by Michael Winterbottom. Fun name. Winterbottom.
I'm a summer bottom.
Fall bottom.
Winter on the top.
Nobody wants to be a spring bottom.
No.
So this is a movie. It's tough to summarize this movie. I'll say that. It's essentially a history about a scene or a movement. To call it a movement, it's not quite a social movement in the way that like the civil rights movement was a movement. This is more about the music scene that was coming out of Manchester, sort of from the late 70s to the early 90s. This is a period that is sort of like punk, post-punk, new wave. Madchester was kind of the term. And we're talking about bands like Joy Division, the Happy Mondays. Most of these groups are featured heavily in this movie.
Sure.
But then other groups later on, like the Stone Roses, the Smiths.
A bunch of them.
Oh, so many great
All
things.
those guys.
Well, there's something about Manchester's like much of England. You know, it rains a lot. And I've heard musicians talk about this sort of, not a theory, but like rainy climates kind of can foster some good music.
I just think about like Kurt Cobain in Seattle.
Exactly. Think about Seattle. You know, the town I grew up in it wasn't like a cultural mecca, but we produced Kim and Kelly Deal of the Breeders and Guided by Voices. And for a while there, Dayton was being written about in the 90s as like an important music city. And then it kind of went away. When all you have to do, when you have to stay inside a lot and you're like hanging out in the basement, you tend to like noodle more, maybe. I'm not saying no warm climates don't have musicians. They do.
No, but it's kind of like with us in the pandemic and the earlier part of it when so many of us were on lockdown, and then a lot of people started getting creative.
Oh, I envied musicians at the beginning of vlog. I was like, oh, you guys are amazing. Earlier this week during our research, we had a chance to talk to a real live Mancunian, which is somebody from Manchester. Yeah. And he claims to be a 23-hour party person.
That's so interesting. What happens with that other hour?
No idea.
I didn't even know Mancunian was a word. I have so many questions.
Well, he's here to, I don't think to answer any of our questions, but he's here. And we're gonna go live to that recording now. You are a 23-hour party person?
That's right. Yes. I was there in Manchester right when the events of this movie were taking place. And I had to tell you, I was right steamed about it.
Oh, why steamed? Why were you steamed?
Well, because here we were the 23-hour party people, and then of course Tony Wilson and his merry wanksters, they come around calling stuff, the 24-hour party people and all this, and very good joke, chaps. But we're already here.
You're mad that they wanted to call themselves the 24 and you were 23. Isn't it isn't it easier to remember 24 because that's how many hours in a day?
Oh, sure, it's easier, but you're in the pub all day and you're partying all night. But what we always did was we saved 1 hour every day. We saved it for a nap. You saved that hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it wasn't only a nap. We weren't Gestapo about it. You didn't have to. You use that however you want. You want to play darts? You play darts. You could go to market. Or you can feck off for all I care. But you have to use that hour. It was important. Mm. You can't be partying all the time.
Well, the makers of this film seem to differ on that.
I'm sure they would. We were there having a nice old time, and all these new wave and these punks come around. We had our own movement. We were the Pank. You know Pank music, don't you?
I'm sorry, Pank?
Yes, Pank. First it was Pank and then it Punk. Because, they had their new wave. We just had wave.
What? Why Pank? Punk, I can kind of understand the etymology of that, but why were you guys Pank?
Before punk was happening, we knew this was coming. We were just
so this is
trying to have a little bit of a moment before it got there. We're trying to stretch out our elbows a little bit, and they weren't having it. They were trying to kick us all and saying we're dinosaurs and all that, but that wouldn't know.
Yeah. Okay.
And they took all our ideas and they just one-upped them.
Okay.
That's all they did. Everything they had, they just took it from us. They used to do all that wild hair and stuff, right? They'd shave their head just because they had wild ideas. Well, so did we, but we was just normal about it.
Just normal. Just
about
normal.
Shaving your head?
It was normal. Yeah, just normal haircuts. We didn't do the hair. And then they come around we're doing the hair now. It's that's a lot of work.
I've been getting stuck on the name on Pank. It's just a sound. It's just a
word.
Yeah, it's just a word.
Don't worry about the word.
Okay.
They rub it right in our face. That song Blue Monday.
Oh yeah, that's a jam.
That's a good one, eh?
Yeah.
Well, we used to say that was a word for when you were really in a bad way. A 23-hour party person today. I'm having a Blue Monday. You could jump on his ass and for that we say, hey, fuck off, Clive. Have your Blue Monday. But come Tuesday, you better be back on the horse. The new order come around. Oh, our lead singer's dead, but we ain't taking no Blue Monday. They were stealing our vibe.
Well, where are you calling from today?
Well, I'm from Manchester. I'm a Mancunian. York Sniffwell.
That sounds fake.
Well, it's my name, and I was there. So I watched this movie, and I didn't find it very realistic because it didn't talk about us at all. It only talked about the people who were a little bit younger than us.
They never mentioned you. I would have remembered your name. You were never mentioned.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's so lame.
Where was I? I was there. I was one of the 23-hour party people, and that's not good enough for your fancy Hollywood documentaries, I see.
I have a theory. Were you maybe just a little forgettable?
It's impossible. It's quite impossible. Oh, really? You and your preposterous predictions. Is this who I contact about my reparations for that? Do I call you?
Yeah, well,
or this movie that I watched that upset me a lot, or
we'll be in touch about that later. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be expecting it.
How did you find us?
I called the number on a VHS.
You got to stop rating your phone number on VHS tapes, Victoria, and sending them out. You never know who's going to pick that up.
My wife says my screen time is up. I've had too much.
All right. Thanks for calling, York.
All right. I want my refund. Thank you.
So this movie, it covers a lot of years, which is already going to be tough. This is a scripted feature movie, but it's based in nonfiction. So it has elements of truth in it, but the film also it's very self-aware. It breaks the fourth wall. It has it's cinema verite. So it has this very like run and gun kind of feel and a flexibility to it where we know that maybe not everything we're being shown is exactly factually what happened, but that like generally though, this is the attitude, this is the spirit of what happened.
It's kind of like The Butler or Forrest Gump, where it's like historical events are happening, but there's this fictional character with a very specific point of view filtering all of it.
The thing though is in this, Tony Wilson, not fictional.
Yeah, no, he's
a real dude.
A real dude. You're right. You're totally right.
But he seems fictional because this is a guy. So this apart from the movement, it's good transition, honestly.
Yeah.
Apart from the movement, this film is not. He would not say it's centered on him, but the main character. I mean, he says he's a minor character in his own story, is how he describes himself.
Yeah.
It's Tony Wilson. Tony Wilson was this guy in Manchester who he was kind of a newsreader. He was a guy who like read the news locally.
Right.
He did local like human interest type stories. Like at one point they show a duck, herding sheep, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Was it the typical like BuzzFeed viral content now?
Yeah, exactly.
He'd be the guy with the mic going, "What's up with the ducks?"
Yeah, but he also had a real passion for music and saw the Sex Pistols at their first concert at the what's it called? The free I forgot. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
But he saw their first concert.
Which was 40 people were there. Free Trade Hall. He saw the first concert at Free Trade Hall.
It looked like a school auditorium.
Oh yeah, bright lights, no bar. It was
100% like a middle school like auditorium or something. It
was really, for that to be the birth of a scene was kind of crazy. And it's like there's real footage. They've got real archival footage cut in.
I liked that stylistically. Just to,
they were trying
that. There were definitely some great moments where they were.
Yeah, so they're trying to like make it really clear, and certain these moments are called out by Tony Wilson, who in this film is played by Steve Coogan.
Right.
And so Tony Wilson, again, as I was saying, he was a guy who was on the news, but he also again really cared about punk music, and he for a while had a show on TV and then about punk music, and then like eventually decided no, like I'm gonna start sponsoring punk shows up here in Manchester, and there was kind of like a no punk on TV attitude down in London. So basically he gave a space both physically and in the media, and eventually later with this massive building, the Hacienda, which was a club that became really popular. He created a space and room for something to happen. Even, he's not a musician. He's a great fan of music.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of shows what he did to support and his genuine respect for all the people involved. And again, it breaks the fourth wall. He's often, addressing the viewer, and it has like a real fun, it's just, I don't know. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I think it dragged a little bit in the second half for me because it is like a 2-hour film, and I think I was really into the first hour, and then I kind of had a harder time with the second hour.
Sure. Like I kind of didn't quite understand. I watched this totally blind with no idea what it was about or
which
anything.
Is tough. I'm just gonna say that is a tough way to watch it.
This made it a tough watch for me.
Yeah, I had to watch it twice.
Quite figure it out, and based on that first scene with like the hang glider, which I've brought up numerous times now that we've like talking about. It's just it
works on two levels.
It comes off like it's gonna be a different. I guess it's not a different movie than that scene. It's not what I thought it was gonna initially be based on that scene, and like the humor was much more. There was a lot more like very dry, uncomfortable humor, which like totally checks out.
Yeah.
It was a little less zany than I expected, or maybe would have preferred in some aspects, because they did some of these guys in these bands were very clearly being depicted as like these larger than life type of people, but it's like, I don't know, like again, this movie doesn't do anything wrong, like in terms of tonally it's consistent, and it sort of leans into the immaturity of a number of these band members, but also the ironic mundane aspects of what they do too. Is kind of like
well, like the whole thing about like the guy who owns the club is named Mr. Tone.
Yeah.
And he's like, but my name's Tony. He's like, well, that's going to be a problem right there. There's two Tonys. Like, like, what do you mean? You don't see how that could be a problem. Like, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of like small bickering.
Smaller bickery type moments, which is like, not usually typically my thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's
I
like,
love that, but
it's great. No, this is a movie that's like,
that's very British.
It's very British.
Yeah.
And if you like that, you will love this. I do recommend it. And maybe I think, if I were to get further engrossed in that type of humor, then maybe I could go back and eventually appreciate it once I've developed a palate for it.
This is a tough one because like if it's also not your style of humor,
I'm just a dumb American.
No. Like, listen, there were concerns. Like the producer talked about how this movie, people were somewhat resistant to it because they felt like this was for such a small audience, and in some ways they're right. Like it is like, but what I love about this movie is that even if you're not like, well, if you like music, I'm not going to say even if you don't. No, if you have to like music a little bit.
Sure.
But like if you like music, particularly if you're, if you like that kind of punk era, new wave, this will fill in all kinds of interesting like cultural gaps, I think.
I mean,
like,
that was cool to see.
Yeah.
And once I was like on board with that too.
But like if you're not a huge Joy Division fan, or if you don't even know who Joy Division is, you're dropped into this world without a lot of, he is explaining who these people are in a very explicit way, but it's not quite though.
He's not quite selling you on like the scene. It just sort of immediately starts off with like, yeah, I saw this band in a shitty venue, but was like,
it was a life-changing moment.
It doesn't quite emotionally get me on his level of why he appreciates this as much as he does, other than like I certainly got the idea that he had a bit of like, not a bit, like he clearly was like an egocentric person who ironically was saying, I'm a minor character in this and that, but he took so much pride in being like
the one responsible,
the Christopher Columbus of this.
Yeah.
No,
and with it culminating at the end with him having a vision of God.
Exactly. Which was again, and then that happens and I'm like, come on, like, I loved that. Where was my zany stuff?
I loved that.
The hang glider beginning, the God, I loved that.
2 zany pieces of bread on the outside of a very thick jelly and peanut butter.
I really wanted, like, there was totally room for more of that zany stuff because that was another highlight moment. And I loved, and I think it pairs well with the biggery stuff, just played with more of it. Like,
totally.
I love when it went right after that. It's like, he's like, oh, by the way, I just saw God.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, what did he look like? Oh, he looked like me. Well, he wouldn't have looked like me if you were talking to him. He would have looked like you. You think God looked like that? I love that. And then they just kind of like take it
drift away.
Yeah, that was I loved that ending.
Yeah, I like that God is just like no, you have secured your place in history and is written on the hearts of men. Like and there's something like, and he's like should have signed the Smiths. But you were right about, I can't remember the name. His music sucks and he's a ginger. It's so good.
Sucks and he's that's great delivery. It was dry, but it was also silly. And
it was good.
I also want to.
I was just gonna say it reminded me just a little bit of like when in Monty Python the Holy Grail they see God and it's like this very bright animated thing in the sky. This was reminiscent of that for me.
Very much. Yeah. Visually looked a lot like that, but with Steve Coogan. I will also say too that like, and tonally, I wanted, I thought it was really funny and very sad that at the midpoint of this film, really very close to the final act of this film, we finally find out that he has the second family. He's never talked about the whole movie. He's like, but I never said I was a good person. Like, by the way, I should have mentioned this isn't my story.
Yeah, like when he sits down with his son, like and she's like, trolls.
And I loved that reveal. And then also like right after that, it doesn't go anywhere again. There's almost a part of me that's like, I wish there had been just infinitely more like left-hand turns and zany paired with the dry delivery of everything. Chef's kiss. That would have been even without my knowledge of the new wave scene, because you don't have to have that knowledge.
No, you don't.
When a movie's strong enough to like
totally
love it. Again, this is a very good movie. This is not a good movie.
I mean, it's
consistent.
I agree. Like you don't have to necessarily know anything about that era to watch it and appreciate something about it, because it is designed to be like instructive and almost like this history of an era.
I just wish it had been 10% more and
I get you
10 to 60%.
I agree. And also I think there, that's a really interesting but sound critique, because I listened to an interview with Steve Coogan, who is also from Manchester. And this was, he grew up in this time. So this was like a big deal for him to do this thing. But he described how it was such a spirit of willfulness at the time. It's such a spirit of like, you didn't want to be commercial. You didn't want to do anything that resembled being mainstream. That was death. Like trying to be
this movie's doing that.
Yeah.
Like, very much on a meta level. It's resisting things that maybe I'm talking about, like some more mainstream storytelling techniques,
I mean, it is like right down to the titles. The titles in this film are very difficult to read. And like, I don't mean to like be like sound like an old lady like that, but I'm just like, no, it's because fuck it. Who cares? Like it doesn't matter. We know who's here, and you can read them. It's just that it's very much, it's very like punk in every way it can be, but it still follows plenty of conventions and plenty of, this style of, again, like the cinema verite and addressing the camera or the audience at home. It's like we're now pretty well used to that in most of our media is formed that way. But this was 2002. Again, like, this was really, the British Office had just been out, and it's just an interesting style. And Michael Winterbottom has done several other films that are really similar to this, like with Steve Coogan. Like if you've ever seen Tristram Shandy, A Cock and Bull Story, that's like a really similar spirit, but a totally different subject. I really love that film. And I love Steve Coogan. And I think this movie, there was hope that this was going to like really break him into American audiences, which is like in hindsight, I'm like, there's no way. There's no fucking
for all
way.
The things you just talked about, this was not going to be
There's no way. But I got to say, I think more people do know him now, of course. But but he's so underrated in America compared to like what a star he is in Britain. And I don't know. I love when I see movies like this. It just, I don't know. It really makes me frustrated in this weird way that like people didn't notice him sooner.
Totally.
I don't know. I'm sure he's frustrated about it too. I have a couple of reviews here.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Roger Ebert said, the mixing of reality and fancy makes the movie somehow more true than factual documentary would have been. So that's interesting. 4 stars. Peter Travers said it was outspoken, roaringly funny, defiantly sexual, and relentlessly in your face. And someone from The Spool, I'm sorry, dude, I didn't write your name down. It tells a story about what it's like to get caught up in a moment in history and how exciting and disorienting that can be. There were like negative reviews, but people were generally into it.
Yeah. These are also people who were like around at that time, and I'm not surprised at all that Peter Travers would like give it a great
Rolling
ratings.
Stone
It's like
reviewer, of course.
Yeah.
Like this is so in that wheelhouse of like music and film. And,
sure. Like this is a movie that has like a lot of love and appreciation for like the subject matter, and that's something that anyone who also shares in that love will see that and appreciate that care.
And again, for people who are into like the deep depths of new wave and post-punk, there are a lot of like cameos, or not cameos exactly, because they're not playing themselves,
like Easter eggs maybe,
but exactly, there's a lot of different people from different groups who are cast in this movie, and then it's called out in the movie, so you're not going to miss it. They're going to point it out. But there's something lovely about that. It reminds me a little bit of like Portlandia, the way they always have a lot of musicians mixed in, and they don't necessarily name them, they just cast them, and so this has a lot of winks and a lot of nods. And I think no one in my family's from Manchester. I don't have any Manchester connections, but I can appreciate like how this was such a community movie or how a community film, or how, getting this right was probably really important to everybody involved. In fact, like, I guess the writer of the script, the director said he was thinking of making a film about Factory Records, which Factory Records is the name of the record company that Tony Wilson started, that this movie centers on. And the screenwriter, or the guy who would be the screenwriter, Frank, told him that if he got anyone else to write it, he would kill him.
Oh man.
So like people were really into getting this done and making this happen and getting it right. And that's just like, again, this is all like contextual though. We try to come at these things. I try to bring some history and some like additional historical context, but I think if you're coming at it fresh, all these things are kind of not gonna come in. And I think, again, when I think about it as a movie, I was really interested in Joy Division, and even if I didn't know anything about Joy Division, there was something really interesting about that group and the way that they describe them coming up in this film, and then the way Ian Curtis, the way his suicide is portrayed in this movie, left me so unsettled. And it was that part really was what I was like left thinking about the next day, like more than anything.
There's some really melancholy sequences in this movie, so that's another thing too, that like if you're on board, great, like, it works. Yeah But if you've got some issues around that kind of thing, don't watch it. Trigger warning. Don't watch it. Of that era.
No, and I mean, again, like if you know anything about Ian Curtis, that it isn't so much a surprise. But if you don't know anything, it is a surprise, and the way they do it is pretty surprising. It's pretty abrupt, and it's like right in the middle of the movie. Yeah. And again, like you cut to like Coogan as Wilson, and he's in the car, and he's like, F. Scott Fitzgerald said that in there are no second acts. And he's like, well, we do things a little differently. This isn't America. This is the second act. And like, I agree that I keep thinking about that hang gliding scene and how like perfectly it ends into the credits. Yeah. He's like, I'll give you a hint. Icarus. Which, if you know, then you know. And if you don't, you should probably read more. It was just so punchy and perfect. And I'm with you. I think there was something about the spirit of that cold open that was so great. And it just really shifts away from that. It becomes much more quasi-doc. It's full of small moments. Yeah. And so it's very hard to talk about and remember like what to talk about, because it's so many small moments stacked on top of each other. Totally. I don't know.
Yeah. That's right. I agree.
Some other things Michael Winterbottom has directed.
Sure.
He did his feature debut was The Butterfly Kiss, Wonderland, which I guess was a big deal. that sounded shitty. The Claim, A Cock and Bull Story, which I mentioned earlier, A Mighty Heart, The Trip, if you guys are into The Trip.
Oh, sure.
I did those. The Look of Love, Greed, another two films that had Steve Coogan as the head. He works a lot with the same actors. Shirley Henderson is in a lot of the same things. She was in this film. John Sim. Rob Brydon, of course, made an appearance in this film, who's a classic foil for Steve Coogan in so many ways. For a second, I thought Rob Brydon was playing Johnny Rotten, and I was really scared. Yeah. I was like, no, they're not. They're not doing that. No, they weren't. He plays like another music journalist or something. Yeah. So it's fine. But
they weren't taking that on.
No. God, no. I just want to say this also. Michael Winterbottom wrote an interesting, or he kind of edited and wrote a book called Dark Matter, Independent Filmmaking in the 21st Century. He sort of took a look at British independent cinema, and there's a lot of filmmakers who are really great. They make like one movie and then 10 years goes by and they make one movie. And he was kind of, what happens is just kind of a brain drain. A lot of the talent ends up going to Hollywood. And he sort of was identifying like there's all this sort of untapped, or not even untapped potential, but like I have an interesting quote here. When you look at British independent cinema, quote, it resembles an abandoned building site with roads mapped out, foundations dug, random piles of bricks here and there, bags of cement and sand lying around unused, and only an occasional building standing, unoccupied, looking down a lonely, chaotic landscape. Why do I try to write anything down?
That's okay.
He's one of these filmmakers who's paying attention to not just his own like industry, but his own like particular culture within that industry. And I just think that's interesting. And, Peter Bagdanovich just passed away, and he was a filmmaker who was very much a great filmmaker, but a huge part of his contribution to cinema is that he interviewed and talked to filmmakers and did a lot of work to get people talking about it. Or, he put a lot of things down. He interviewed a lot of people. Michael Winterbottom deserves maybe a little credit just for being like thinking broader. This isn't just somebody who's just directing comedies. He's really paying attention to the bigger trends, and
absolutely,
and the fact that he has done so many films and stayed in Britain. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know. There's something there. It's kind of like a, fuck off.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to Hollywood. I mean, maybe he has.
Part of your system.
Yeah. There was another pigeon scene in this. Made me think of Ghost Dog.
Yeah.
Except this one went real dark.
Yeah.
And it was like, I couldn't decide if that was supposed to be a comedy moment. It was a little horrifying.
Yeah.
But real, apparently. You know, Steve as Tony, like addressing the camera, like, well, you know, don't worry, no real pigeons were harmed in the filming of this. Although some people do think they're pests.
Yeah.
Rats with wings. And he like crosses his arms. You know, it's like very clear where he stands.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
a good moment.
Yeah, there's definitely good moments.
There are. I mean, that's just it. There's all these little. Okay, so when I first heard about this movie, the title, I thought this was going to be so much about ecstasy. And it doesn't show up till much later in the story. And I'm not disappointed. I'm not like, damn it, you know, but Manchester at a certain time, like this sort of brief window, it was like the place to be in all of Europe. It's the drugs and the music and the club and everything coming together at once. And the film does a pretty interesting, almost like a business school case study of like why the Hacienda, this big club that they built, didn't make money, you know, and they were because everybody was spending their money on ecstasy. Nobody was buying drinks, you know, and like it was, and they're like, okay. And then when all the money's going to the drug dealers, suddenly then it becomes about competition, and rather than like undercutting each other on prices, they just try to get rid of the competition, which means guns. And if you have too many guns and drugs in your club, you're gonna get shut down. And like they sort of really break down like how that like why are there shootings in clubs. This movie kind of explains why. And it's and this Factory Records thing, like again, Tony Wilson and this they had this record label that they didn't have any kind of deals really, or they, like all the artists were completely free is basically the arrangement they had. And
I love that scene. Yeah. Like just they get that $5 million offer, and he's just like, oh, see, here's the thing, and he just gives them a piece of paper. And he's like, and the other guy's like, "Are you mad?"
Yeah, the paper written in blood.
Yeah,
his own blood.
His own blood. That this is just this. It's for the arts. For the then when they're shutting down the club, go in the offices, take all of the stuff.
Yeah, like, loot the offices.
Loot the offices.
Yeah, and that's the attitude. Like that's the spirit. Yeah, you know. And yeah, I had a hard time. It's a bit of a slog.
Oh, okay.
Like for me. Yeah.
After all,
I mean, I like it.
Like, no.
But I had a hard time. No, the second, because I watched it twice, and both times I had that experience in the second hour. Like because I just got hung up on the Ian Curtis thing. It
shifts the tone.
It shifts the tone, and I'm not thinking you can't have humor against that, but I just. Ooh, man, it really got to me, and it affected. And I don't know that it's supposed to, but that was all I really thought about the next day. And then I spent like the whole week like listening to Joy Division, so loud in my car. So I thank the movie for that.
There you go,
having a little Joy Division revival.
Yeah,
you know, I talked a lot.
That's okay. You enjoyed.
I mean, I tried.
There you go.
I tried.
Yeah.
All right. Any lingering questions? No. Other than what the hell was that?
Yeah, just, you know.
Any miscellaneous feels, recommendations?
No, I mean, I think my thoughts were kind of covered. So yeah.
All right.
It's like a solid 3-star movie. Like for me, it's a good movie. It's just not my thing.
Exactly.
It's just like, you know, Wes Anderson makes great movies, but if you don't like Wes Anderson, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you're like, no one can argue that Royal Tenenbaums is a bad movie, but some people just don't vibe with the tone or the sense of humor.
Like I was the only one who liked that movie in my family.
There you go.
I used to fall asleep watching that. I had a VHS copy of that, and I would fall asleep like every night watching it. Because Alec Baldwin narrates it. And I know he's in trouble now, but like, you know, it's
sure. When is he not in trouble?
He's just gotten so crazy old man, and it just has accelerated in the last like 10 years. Yeah, and it bums me out because like I loved Alec Baldwin. Like I loved him. Like so funny, so smart. Like great actor.
Yeah, it's just kind of
everything I've read about his like ability, just technical ability as an actor, magnificent. Yeah, like you can't do better. You know,
he's just getting to that point. You know,
he's just. Anyway,
it's sad.
It is sad. Thank you. Let's mourn.
Yeah, what is time? You know, this movie is about that too. This movie,
it is.
This movie is gonna. It's funny, but like I rarely laughed out loud, and it's gonna bum you out. Yeah, it's gonna bum you the hell out. Midway. That's kind of the takeaway here.
But if you're lucky, and you do something significant, God might appear to you in a vision.
Yeah,
he's like, no, left your mark. And he's like, can I get that in writing?
Yeah. I love it.
So good. So it's good music to chill out to.
The show.
Yeah. Thanks, listeners. Oh, also, this film, we watched it on Canopy, which is a streaming service that you can access if you have a library card.
There you
now,
go.
not every library participates. So I'm sorry if your library isn't on that. You should get them on that. Go visit.
Yeah.
They love visit. Not really,
Yeah.
but email them. Be like, anyway, Canopy with a K. That's how we saw last week's film as well, Red Heaven, which I don't know where else that's available. So
you buy it on Apple.
Really?
Otherwise,
is that what you did?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I fucked up. I forgot about Canopy when Red Heaven.
Well, this is a PSA for you too.
Yeah. No, I know. We just talked about it. So that's
It's
why
totally cool.
I was just really dumb and forgot that I fucking had Canopy, which is a great reason to be bringing it up again now because I have like Pluto and I have all the other random apps, and there's another library app that I'm blanking on right now. There's like another free app, and I'm blanking.
What?
I don't remember the name of it. I'll text you.
It's fine.
It's some other like niche bullshit thing that Scully set up on my TV. But yeah, I
mean, like I have like
I forget to go through all those.
No, exactly.
I just search for the movie in the general search, and then whatever.
And it's
never going to give you the option. By the way, if it's on Canopy, you have to open up Canopy to search for these movies.
It's true. Like it does have a limit of like, oh, you only get 10 films you can watch a month, but. Seriously, between this and every other streaming service, I've never run out.
I've
never run out.
Yeah.
So, and how I am.
There.
So anyway, just wanted that plug. Also, if you don't have a library card, get yourself a library card. You can do it 100% digitally online. You don't even have to like go get that piece of plastic. Like I'm pretty sure you can. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but just. Get angry finding out that I'm wrong. And get yourself a library card.
All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.